up for analysis, notes, our tactics and tips for your fantasy teams. Here we break down the rosters that you submit. We go over its strengths and weaknesses and look at the teams. Let's say the trajectory for this season. Seasons ahead. If we're looking at dynasty rosters, I'm Enra. I am Rahul. My Twitter handle is nrahul11. You can find me all over the Going for Two network. I'm joined here today by my co-host Jerry Wilkie. How you doing, man?
Hey, what's going on? Excited to get back into these. We had a little break between the two of us. You had some stuff going on. I had some stuff going on. We had some fill-ins, but now we're back together. What's going on?
I know, yeah. It actually has been a while since you and I have done one of these together, so I'm really looking forward to this one. It is a special episode, the first one of these of the series, and that is a Scott Fish Bowl episode. You can see I'm representing the Blow Pop division. For those of you who don't know, and if you're watching this video, you probably do know, Scott Fish Bowl is a large charity tournament organized by none other than Scott Fish. You can check out his page on Twitter at ScottFish24. And his charity, the most important part. That's why we're all here. It's Fantasy Cares, doing its part to help kids around the holidays. It's a large tournament. I believe 3,300 teams, mainly fantasy analysts all across the industry, all hopped in to get into this large tournament. So really exciting thing to check out. And we got 4 teams here for you today. I'm really excited to get into this one. It'll be a little bit different from the normal episodes. We've only done Dynasty so far, but nice change of pace for us today, Jerry. So let me go ahead and pull up the first team submitted by friend of the show, Josh, otherwise known as Rodonaut. You've probably seen him in the chat. So thank you for the submission, my man. So let me just go and do a quick little rundown of the players we've got. And, right at the top, we've got Patrick Mahomes. You can't really complain about having old Patty heading up your team. He's also got Dak Prescott as the QB2 and Sam Howell on the bench, a pretty nice young option to have. For running back, we've got Saquon Barkley, Tony Pollard, James Conner, Samaje Perine, Jeff Wilson, Jerome Ford, and Malik Davis. For wide receiver, we've got DK Metcalf, Amari Cooper, Michael Pittman, Jacoby Myers, Alan Lazard, Hunter Renfrow, MVS, and Josh Palmer. And then rounding out the list with tight end, we've got Cole Kmet, Sam Laporta, and Noah Fant. And should I really say, we got to talk about the kickers, because if you've looked at the scoring setting, kickers is a pretty big part of these leagues. So we've got Jason Sanders of the Miami Dolphins as the kicker here. Jerry, what do you think about this team, how it's constructed?
Well, it's good up top. Definitely going over the quarterbacks, Patrick Mahomes, Prescott, and Sam Howell. Really got 2 potentially top 10 quarterbacks. One of them could end up as a quarterback 1. And for him to drop to 104, and I say the word drop, and that's truly what it is, because like in most of these leagues, you're seeing Allen, Hurts, and Mahomes go top 3. So
Right.
obviously we don't have the whole draft in front of us, so I don't know where Jefferson or Chase, or if it was a homer that picked in one of those top 3 spots. But Mahomes going at 4 is definitely a value, because I think he went 1 in mine. I don't know where he went in yours.
Mm-hmm.
And then
I think
Sam
he was
Howell.
gone. Maybe 103. Yeah, in the top 4 for sure.
Yeah, I mean 4 is still like because at that point you're looking, like I said, Jefferson, Chase, maybe Christian McCaffrey. But if you've ever been in one of these, then if you're listening, if you've ever been in one of these, you know that quarterbacks go early and they go often. And that's why his QB3 was gone in the 10th round. He didn't pick another one after that, because I assume they were probably all gone, because we're looking at like the 20, well, it says on there QB 26, but like Sam Howell in a lot of rankings 28, 29, 30, whatever. But it's still it's a solid quarterback room. Can't go wrong with Mahomes. Dak Prescott, we just talked about on the armchair show the other night. We went over the NFC East and AFC East, and one of the props was, can Dak Prescott hit over 26.5 touchdowns? I think he can.
Mm-hmm.
I went yes on that one. The running back room is also solid. Saquon Barkley, Tony Pollard, James Conner, 3 solid running backs right there. Conner, I mean, he's been He's a little bit of a sleeper. It's supposed to be a bad offense down there in Arizona, but it's as long as
I
he's
think
healthy,
especially
he should be the
for
workhorse.
he should be. I mean, I think especially for running back 26, where it looks like Josh picked up James Conner. I really like the value there, especially if you take a look at how Conner did towards the end of last season. Even without Kyler on the team, I think had one of the highest percentage of running back touches across the entire league. So I really like that value there.
We've seen him pick up big yardage in the passing game. We've seen him punch it into the end zone quite a few times. So as long as he health has been really his issue, but as long as he can stay healthy, that's a solid third running back on this team. They could end up being honestly could end up being his RB2. Again, if
Mhm.
you haven't played in any of the Scott Fish Bowls before, it's not best ball and you can't trade, but there are pickups. So yeah, they're
Right.
22 rounds deep, 12 teams for all the leagues. So there's 264 players off the board, but you're allowed to pick up players during the season. So this isn't the team that you're stuck with. You just want to have exposure all the way around. So because there's not going to be a lot of guys out there on waivers. Um,
Yeah.
good group of wide
Uh,
receivers. Yeah,
oh,
go ahead.
yeah. Good. So yeah, I was just gonna sorry, jumping on your toes there. You can tell it's been a while since Jerry and I have been on a pod together. But yeah, going right into the wide receivers and Metcalf, Cooper. I really do like Cooper this year. It kind
Yeah.
of depends like which side of the fence you line on about Sean Watson, but even with Jacoby Brissett, who's by no means the best QB in the league, even staying an average QB in the league. Last year, Cooper ended up as a low end wide receiver one, so feel pretty good about that. Michael Pittman, you're not as excited about him with a rookie quarterback, but he should be a good volume play in what is a full PPR league, and you also get point per first down. And Pittman could quickly emerge as someone that a young Anthony Richardson trusts, to get a crucial pick up a crucial first down. Um, Going down the bench, we've got Jacoby Myers. Maybe not too excited about that spot there out at Las Vegas, but Jimmy Garoppolo is known really for more of his dink and dunk style, which kind of suits Myers' game. It'll be interesting to see how the split between him and Hunter Renfrow go, who actually is on this team as well. So he's stacking up those Raiders receivers. Um, yeah, if I were to pick a weakness, it would probably be the wide receiver side of this room. But scoring in Scott Fishbowl, you're actually not incentivized to take too many wide receivers. The value really is with the running backs and, of course, the tight ends here.
Yeah, and if we just want to point out a couple of the different kind of scoring that might not be in your everyday league, um, every pass completion for a quarterback is 0.1 points.
Mm-hmm.
There is a tight end premium of 1 point for tight ends, so it's 2 points for the tight ends because it is PPR as well. It is the 1 point for the receiving touch or receiving first down, and then 0.25 for rushing attempts. So it's and then the kickers too. You already mentioned about the kickers. Points per field goal yard is 0.1, and then every extra point made is 3.3.
Right.
So you got uh, Butker kicking 4 field goals. That's 12 points, 13 points there, just
Mm-hmm.
from 4 extra points.
I
So
know, and he's got the Dolphins kicker, who should figure to be a pretty high scoring offense. You'll probably take the weather in Miami too over. So, like that's I
yeah,
think I passed over
weather and
whoever the
domes.
well yeah exactly. But whoever the Bills, actually you could probably
Oh,
tell me who
Tyler
the Bills
Bass.
kicker is. Yeah, I think I was going between him and McPherson, and I went with McPherson simply because I don't want to be getting to week 16, 17, and they're playing in a snowstorm, right?
Yeah.
Um, is really quickly to finish up the position group. So, what do you think about the tight ends? I've seen a lot of tight ends fly very early off the boards in these leagues. So, how do you think about the situation with Komet, Laporta, and Fant, which might not be the standard room in most of these drafts?
It's a little weaker. I mean, we've seen Fant be good. We've seen Cole Kmet have a few good games. Laporte is still a rookie, and we know what the story is on rookie tight ends coming out of the gate. But between like him and Kincaid, they have every opportunity to get some snaps right from week one. So it's not a bad option there. Points per reception, the extra point per reception for the tight ends definitely helps out a little bit. Cole Kmet just got that big bag a couple days ago.
Right.
It's not the greatest room, but again, you're allowed to make pickups in here. I don't know who else is going to be out there available in his league, but it's enough to basically get by and maybe play the matchup on a week to week basis and see if somebody gets frustrated during the year with a tight end and maybe drop somebody that picks it up towards the end of the year.
Yeah, I could definitely see that. I do have to say, I'm not the biggest fan of picking up Cole Kmet. Um, Given the scoring, that you do want to go for your volume plays. Of course, if you're picking tight end 12, volume plays may be a little bit limited, but Cole Kmet, I just heard this stat. He had 50 catches and he got a contract for 50 million. So million per catch, but that's what less than 3 catches per game into a room that DJ Moore is coming into. So not the most exciting for me. But there is upside with Laporta, especially who sounds like from camp that he's been running with the ones, so he could get work going in early and should really just ramp up towards the end of the year. And Noah Fant, previous first round pick, obviously got traded from the Broncos to the Seahawks. Last year was a bit of a mess. With the likes of Will Disley and I think Parkinson or something, they just had like 4 tight ends catching touchdowns like every week. But Noah Fant is the young talent in that room, and he could get worked in a little more. So there is upside to make up for what on paper doesn't seem like the strongest room. So let's quickly just break down. We kind of already touched on this, but what do you think are some of your favorite values that Josh got in this draft?
Well, Alan Lazard in the 16th round, going not back to New York, but back to a quarterback that he's familiar with, and Aaron Rodgers. I think he has a potential to potentially be the wide receiver 3 on this team, especially with the rookie quarterback in Indianapolis. And I really like Malik Davis until. In this situation, it is a handcuff, but I would take Malik Davis by himself too if I didn't have Tony Pollard. And getting him in the 21st round, that's good. It's not like, I mean, I don't know his exact ADP, but he's definitely somebody that should be drafted. But I have seen him go undrafted, so you could probably find him for free in some other leagues. But as of right now, he's listed as the number 2.
Right.
Pollard isn't a full 100% snap kind of guy, and I think that. And they say that they want to run more, although the moves that they made don't really indicate that. But if it is true, he's going to get some snaps, and I think he's going to be all right. He's going to have some games, throw a couple touchdowns in there. Unfortunately, SFB isn't best ball, so you have to kind of pick your poison and when you want to start him. But I think that's going to end up being a pretty good pick by the end of the year, unless they bring Zeke back or another named back in.
Right. I mean, I've really been picking up Malik Davis everywhere, and for someone in the 21st round, RB73 off the board, I really don't think you can. That's one of the best shots to get upside. I think that late in the draft. As far as for me, I'm going to first just name someone a little higher on the board, and I'm curious to see where he went in your draft, Jerry. But I think getting Dak Prescott towards the end of the 3rd round is actually phenomenal value. I've seen him go really by mid-second in, not just my actual SFB draft, but in my mirror league too. He was gone by the mid-second. In my league, actually, Geno Smith even was gone by the 309. So I think that's actually phenomenal value from Josh here. Do you remember where he went? Because it does seem a little bit late to me.
Yeah, I got it right here. He went 205. So
Exactly.
mid-second, and he paired up with Justin Herbert in there. I'm not seeing any stacks, so he kind of took him solo, which he doesn't have a stack here besides Tony Pollard. But 205 he went mine.
Yeah, so 309 is definitely a great place to get. I mean, QB 12. I think Dak is pretty much a lock to be like a low end QB QB1. Even with with the talk about the ball more, slowing the pace of play. I really like the addition of Brandon Cooks into that room to open everything up a little bit more. And just one more I'll touch on, kind of in a similar vein to Malik Davis, but that's Jerome Ford. Going off the board as RB55. As of right now, there really hasn't been any indication that the Browns are looking to bring in another running back to that room, and to be the sole backup on the team sheet behind Nick Chubb, behind like a great offensive line, a role that historically has produced 15, 20 carries a game. If Chubb goes down, that really could be a league winner in a format like this. And with football, really, we're recording this on Thursday. Football starts in a week, the Hall of Fame game. It's the Browns versus the Jets, and I'm actually pretty interested to see how Jerome Ford looks. But I really like that value there on him. But yeah, on the flip side, though, Jerry, what are some maybe one or two picks that you aren't as happy with? You might have gone a different direction in.
Again, I'm not high on Tony Pollard.
Mhm.
He hasn't really carried the load in the back in the past. He's not a big body. He's an excellent pass catcher. He's going to get some done through the air. And we have seen the Dallas O line kind of get a little beat up and unhappy with contracts and retire and stuff like that. So it's not going to be the same as what we saw the past few years, or not even the past few years, but like years before that when Zeke was just dominating the league. So I might have gone somewhere else at that 404. And then you already touched on it a little bit, maybe Michael Pittman, just with the rookie quarterback coming in, not too high. I mean, eighth round is okay as a wide receiver 3 on this team. It's okay, and having other guys that could potentially end up as the wide receiver 3, I don't absolutely hate it. I just, I don't know. Like I said, possibly go somewhere else in that round and maybe swap the positions there. Maybe go with a wide receiver in the 4th, and then a different running back in the 8th.
Right. That I agree with you on Pittman. Tony Pollard, I myself actually took him at the 309. I was drafting from the 4 spot. I took him at the 309, and I totally hear you about him not having a past of carrying the workload. For me, I kind of just had this thought when I came up, and it's like, should I pick Pollard? Is that even with Zeke in the room, he finished as, I believe, RB7 in PPR. People have been saying that Zeke coming back is, the bear case for Tony Pollard. That's the worst case situation. But we saw that happen, and he finishes RB7. But I think you brought up a very good point that the risk is really high with that one. Can he handle, a 200 plus carry season? We don't know. And I think he's drafted well, Josh. So, great draft from you, my man. But I think he's drafted well to make up for an injury if Tony Pollard does go down. Obviously, the running back room is very strong. Saquon, Connor, even Samaje Perine is sneaky good value there. But of course, then Malik Davis on the bench. So he kind of ensured that pick, I would say.
Yeah, no doubt.
Great. Yeah. So thanks for the submission, Josh. I really like your team, and best of luck in the Waffle House division. So quickly moving on to the second team in the night, and that is from our friend Cody. Thank you for the submission. You've actually, if you're watching this, probably seen him on the show. He's done it a few times with us already. But Cody here was in the Blue Moon division, picking from the 110. For his quarterbacks, he's got Trevor Lawrence, Bryce Young, Kyler Murray. At running back, he's got Jonathan Taylor, Travis Etienne, Ken Walker, Rashad Penny, Zach Evans, Dwayne McBride, and Sean Tucker. At wide receiver, he's got Justin Jefferson, Calvin Ridley, Michael Pittman, Cortland Sutton, Wan'Dale Robinson, DJ Chark, and Tank Dell. Nathaniel Tank Dell. The TH in that kind of confused me a little bit. At tight end, he's got Michael Mayer, Hayden Hurst, Cole Turner. I can't even lie. I've never heard of this guy before. And Tucker Kraft. and his kicker taken in the 10th round, the Baltimore Ravens kicker Justin Tucker, who is the best kicker in the game. So what do you think about this team, Jerry? Tell me what you think are the strengths and weaknesses of Cody's team here.
Strength are definitely, I mean, it sticks out right away. See a lot of red on the screen. It's going to be the running backs. Jonathan
Mm-hmm.
Taylor, Travis Etienne, Kenneth Walker, Rashad Penny, all all have a chance for significant touches, significant snaps this year. I mean, health is really going to be their only factor as far as those guys go. Jonathan Taylor's a little kind of ticked off at his contract and not too happy, but I think he'll come around. ETN had an injury in the past. Kenneth Walker a little banged up, and Rashad Penny, we all know his story. But as long as like two or three of those guys are solid and play the whole 17 weeks, I think he's gonna be pretty good there. The next strength would probably have to be the wide receivers. Um, well, what's your strength first?
Right. I think I would agree there. It actually just stands out so vividly that big block of red right there. I do like all those running backs. I don't know if I would say that any of the top three at least are taking at values are probably right around where they're drafted, but that makes it very clearly a strength. And I know the the Twitter sphere, a lot of analysts have been down on the duo of ETN and Ken Walker. I think maybe more so for ETN too, but with the points per carry aspect of the Scott Fishbowl, I think ETN and Walker will be perfectly fine. It's in more regular redraft formats where you're more worried about the passing game involvement as well as the goal line work. But I think both of these should be, you know, 60 at least 60, but 70% of the carries in the backfield. So I do like that there. Weaknesses though. Um, Tight end is a little bit of a tough situation here. I like the value on Hayden Hurst as tight end 27 off the board. That is a wide open pass catching group, and he's actually got DJ Chark as his next pick right after. Um, but in this format where tight ends are kind of, as the kids would say, OP. It is a little hard to see whether on a week to week basis, if Cody here can, beat out his opposition's tight end. Michael Mayer, may grow into a strong role, like we were talking about with Sam Laporta in the last team. Jimmy Garoppolo does have a great history of targeting his tight ends, but it isn't the strongest tight end group you'd see in the worst case scenario. You could end up by like week 5 or 6 not really wanting to start any of these guys. But what would you say? Would you say tight end's a weakness, or would you point to a different side of the team?
No, I'd say tight end, because it gave me a second thought or it gave me a second chance to kind of look at the quarterbacks. Because I was going to say quarterbacks was having the rookie and then having Kyler for who knows what week he actually comes back. But
Hmm.
if we're basing this off potential and Kyler does come back fairly early or Bryce hits right away, it is actually a pretty strong quarterback room because
Right.
Trevor Lawrence could finish top 6, top 8, and he does have the ability to run, even though he's not known as a running quarterback. He has the ability to run, so that'll definitely boost him up a little bit. So I would go tight end, although I do like Hayden Hurst. I like the. I mean, again, that's another little stack there. He's got Bryce Young, Hayden Hurst,
Hmm.
DJ Chark. I do like having those veteran type, sure-handed catch guys for your rookie quarterback.
Right.
And Hayden Hurst is one of those guys. There's really not a lot of tight end competition on that Carolina Panthers team, so he could be somebody that you're slotting in there. And I've always said, and this was just in regular, just standard PPR leagues, not even tight end premium, but unless you're getting a guy like Kittle, Kelsey, Andrews, whatever, if my tight end could give me 5 catches for 45, 50 yards on a week, I'm happy.
You're
That's
pretty
that's
happy
10
with that.
points, 10 points, 15 points in this type of league, but 10 points in all my other leagues where it's not tight end premium. I'm fine with that, and I think that's something that Hayden Hurst could do maybe half of those games.
Yep. Yep. No, I definitely hear you there. It's not all lost cause. What would you say is maybe one or two of your favorite value picks from this draft here?
Well, I just mentioned one, Hayden Hurst. Um, Rashad Penny in the 11th is another one for me, especially because again, we talked about the NFC East and the AFC East on the Armchair Show the other day, so I don't want to be too repetitive, but we did mention this a little bit too. But it's a pretty wide open running back room for a team that has the number one offensive line in the league. They do like to run the ball, and they're going to get down to the goal line unless AJ Brown and Devonta Smith are getting in the end zone. They're going to have some opportunities. So, and we know Rashad Penny has a talent. The only thing holding him back, literally the only thing holding him back from being elite, is the injuries. And in a room where you already have an unproven Kenny Gainwell and another injured running back in DeAndre Swift, there's every opportunity for him to have Philadelphia Eagles number one running back in the 11th round.
Yeah, I mean, behind one of the best O lines in the game, yeah, you might be a little bit worried about, rightly so, worried about Jalen Hurts taking some rushing touchdowns, but he does now have the bag. The Eagles are more incentivized to, protect their star asset. Rashad Penny truly is one of the most explosive, efficient running backs in the game. It's always been injuries, but if he can stay healthy, that he's way overperforming running back 33. So I definitely like that one as well. And then with the last pick of the draft, taking Sean Tucker, there's probably been so much Sean Tucker discourse this summer, for an undrafted free agent, but we all saw what he could do in college. Now he wasn't, a Bijan, Jahmyr Gibbs level prospect, but this is a highly productive running back in college. He ends up getting I think amongst the highest, one of the biggest contracts for an undrafted free agent this year. I think if he makes the team, there's a good shot that he really pushes Rachaad White for a good share of the carries there. And again, with this format, Sean Tucker could turn into something in this league. On the flip side, though, just talking about maybe a pick that we don't like, I'm curious to hear your thoughts about this one. Justin Tucker in the 10th round. How do you feel about that pick there?
I don't hate it, especially we already mentioned what the scoring is in here. It's 0.1 point for every yard. So even if he's knocking 50 yarders, that's 5 points right there. Every touchdown is 3.3, and I think Baltimore is going to have a good offense. Maybe could have went another round or two. I think I might have mentioned in our Twitter chat. I was looking at because I got Justin Tucker in mind, and I forgot what round I took him in. I could bring up the board, but I mentioned like maybe as early as the 10th round, like, hey, would anybody hate if I took Justin Tucker? And then he kept on dropping a little bit.
Right.
So I waited a little longer, and I ended up getting him maybe in the 12th or something like that. I could double check on that, but so I don't absolutely hate it. My least favorite pick probably is Bryce Young, to be honest with you. And I see that he's quarterback 23 in this league, got Kyler at 24. But I think that if you are looking at taking Kyler, I think your quarterback 2 should have been a little safer, not a rookie. I'm assuming with quarterback 23 and Kyler being 24, maybe guys like Howell and Ritter were still out there.
Right.
I
even like a Brock Purdy was probably still out there, but I definitely hear that you almost want to do. I mean, Gino goes earlier in these drafts, but maybe like a Ryan Tannehill type is someone you might want to like shore up that super flex spot until Kyler comes back, because that could be an awkward first few weeks when Kyler should come back at some point in the season, but he's not going to start the year, and Bryce Young will naturally take some time being up to speed. So I definitely hear you on that. I'm very curious about the Justin Tucker ADP. So I actually have a quick little detour, spike week, which if you've been playing Scott Fishbowl, you're probably pretty familiar with. It's just a good resource. Well, that's first of all where all these beautiful graphics come from. But also we've got ADP here. So I'm just gonna search up Justin Tucker.
And I did get him in the 12th, so I got him at 12.6. And I was starting to look at him, like I said, around maybe round 10.
12. Okay, yeah, that makes sense. I don't think it's the kind of value. I mean, this says he's around 160th, so yeah, and I mean anywhere from, so 160th would be maybe like the 14th round, but hearing you say 12th, I don't think it's a bad position to go for Tucker. I just think that he could have done maybe with another skill position player. Um, because I mean, really, the depth does thin out a little bit on this team beyond the starters. Um, so yeah, any closing thoughts on Cody's team before we move on?
I mean, I guess if we mention Michael Pittman in the ninth for Josh, we might as well mention Michael Pittman in the eighth for Cody. Same
Mhm.
thoughts. Like it's Justin Jefferson, you can't go wrong there. Calvin Ridley is a little bit of a question mark, but it is the stack with Trevor Lawrence. And then again, Michael Pittman's the wide receiver 3 on this team. But with Cortland Sutton there, there's a chance that he could be the 3. So it's not a pick that I hate. I absolutely love Michael Pittman. I have him in my work dynasty, and I would definitely take quite a bit just to get rid of him. But for a season long like this, I'm not too fond of it.
Right. Yeah, I totally agree there. I think DJ Chark is a sneaky pick. Like we touched on earlier, the Hayden Hurst DJ Chark double pick there. You might as well take your shots on what, is a wide open room. Like, people are presuming, and I think ADP presumes that Adam Thielen is going to be the one there. Um, but Adam Thielen's on the wrong side of 30. So I think those are good shots taken there that could really be some key pieces. Um, but thank you so much for your submission, Cody. I hope you enjoyed that breakdown. And now we're going to move on to our next team. Before we do, though, quick shout out to tonight's sponsors, and that is Underdog Fantasy. If you haven't heard of Underdog, you should definitely be getting on the app. They've been running best ball drafts all summer. They actually did. I'm not sure if it's still open, but they have a mirror league for Scott Fishbowl where all the proceeds go to charity, and the winner, I think top 50 or so, get into next year's Scott Fishbowl. They also have Pick'ems, which we do have video set. We have segments on the Pick'ems every week, like Jerry was mentioning earlier. And all this comes with, you can go and use promo code GF2 for a deposit match. Definitely get on Underdog. It's a whole lot of fun. So now we have the third team of the night. This comes in from Da Equinox FF, or Shia LaBeouf. Thank you so much for your submission, man. He is playing in the Wendy's division, picked from the 108. I see this big block of red right up top again. But just starting with the quarterbacks, he's got Matthew Stafford, Derek Carr, Sam Howell, Colt McCoy, and Jameis Winston actually with the last pick. At running back, you gotta love to see this, but Christian McCaffrey, Bijan Robinson, Derrick Henry, Brees Hall, and then a nice little sleeper, Jalen Warren. Wide receivers, that's Keenan Allen, Terry McLaurin, Kadarius Tony. Got to pour one out for my man Tony, or Injury Prony, as I've been calling him. I've also got Gabe Davis, Tyler Boyd, Alec Pierce, and Robert Woods. And then at tight end, we got Chico Conquo, Michael Mayer, Trey McBride, and Luke Schoonmaker. And the kicker on this team is Young Ho Koo. What do you think about the strengths and weaknesses of Da Equinox FF's team right here?
Well, I think we already know what the strength is. It's the
Right.
running back room with McCaffrey, Bijan, Henry, and then a Brees Hall that hopefully turns it up maybe a quarter into the season and just doesn't look back. Can't really go wrong. Jalen Warren, he's going to cut into some Najee Harris work. He showed last year that I think that Tomlin trusts him a lot. It's going to be a nice 1-2 punch there. I don't think we're going to see 70 receptions out of Najee Harris. And as the years go by, um, Pickett is just going to get a little bit better. So the offense is just going to be better overall.
Right.
Yeah, but the running back, definitely the strengths on this team. you can't really go wrong with any of them. Christian McCaffrey as the RB1 at 8th overall too. So I'm assuming 4 or 5 quarterbacks went there, and one or
Mhm.
two wide receivers or just straight quarterbacks until Christian McCaffrey uh, brought it back
I
with
mean,
Bijan, Derrick
in this
Henry.
format, especially in this format, sorry to cut you off there, but like it's not your standard PPR league with that point per carry. Those any of those first top three players could be the RB1 this
Yeah.
upcoming year. He could have RB1, 2, and 3 really with the way he's drafted, and in any format, having those types of shots to lead your team is very strong. Um, I think another strength for me it may not be as obvious with the wide receiver, but I actually really like what he's done with kind of building the entire wide receiver room, if that makes sense. I mean, I really like Keenan Allen. Um, Wide receiver 14 is maybe a little bit higher than he's gone in a lot of drafts. Uh, but I think Keenan, Terry McLaurin, both solid picks. You're not probably not as happy about the Kadarius Toney one right now, but I think everyone else that's been picked, Gabe Davis, Tyler Boyd, Alec Pierce, and Robert Woods, all can have some value, all can be starting pieces in this team. So I really like what he's done with the entirety of that room.
I gotta I gotta disagree a little bit. I think the wide receivers are probably the weakest of the. Overall it's a strong team. Top to
Mhm.
bottom, it is pretty strong, but I think wide receivers are definitely the weakest position. Which if you have Keenan Allen, Terry McLaurin, that's, I mean, that means the team's really good. If I'm saying that's the weakest, if it's the weakest position on the team,
Right.
but I don't. I mean, there's a chance that none of these wide receivers end up as a wide receiver one. It could just be just a whole bunch of wide receiver twos and threes,
Mhm.
and hopefully the running backs that he's got make up that difference. I mean, obviously you want wide receivers tied to guys like Josh Allen and Justin Herbert, but it's going to be hard for them to get into the wide receiver one range. And Patrick Mahomes too, he's got wide receiver from each of them, and Joe Burrow.
Yeah.
um,
No, I
get
know.
into the, he's got one from every elite quarterback there is. But it's going to be hard to get into the wide receiver one range with any of these guys. So you kind of just got to pick each week which 3 or 4 you're putting out there. Hopefully, one of them has a boom week. We've seen Gabe
Mhm.
Davis do it. We've seen Keenan Allen rack up receptions in a game. We've seen Kadarius Toney have the talent when he's not injured. So there's definitely potential there. It's just it's a lot of like guys really grouped together that it's going to be hard to kind of decide like if any of them are going to break apart from that group.
No, I actually think that that was a really well put argument. Um, it- maybe in another draft, one of those first four picks could have been a wide receiver, or another skill position. Because I was going to touch on, um, you know, I'm not as big of a fan of, either the quarterback or the tight end positions in this build. It is a very strong team. I think quarterbacks maybe I jumped the gun with that, but especially in a format that actually doesn't penalize bad play. There's no negative points for quarterbacks. He's got some good pocket passers, and then the upside of Sam Howell. But Stafford and Derek Carr, QB19 and QB22, it's going to be hard to compete with a lot of teams that you would think at least every other team in this league has a quarterback drafted ahead of QB19, so it may be hard to keep up. And then with the tight ends, you're probably a little bit more happy before the news of D Hop reaching Tennessee came through because Chigakonko did seem like a good bet to get volume at that kind of position. But then now, when you look at Chig, uh, probably a third option on that team on a very run heavy team. Michael Mayer that we spoke about earlier. Trey McBride could be a sneaky little play with Zach Ertz coming off an ACL tear. And then Luke Schoonmaker, you really don't know where you're going to get. But I'm not as happy with the quarterbacks and tight ends, the quote unquote the onesie positions. Of course, it is super flex, but um, this is a strong team overall in my eyes. Any quick thoughts on the QB or the tight end rooms?
Well, I really like the quarterback room a lot. You got Matt Stafford, who's been a top 10 quarterback before. You got Derek Carr, who's been a top 14 quarterback before, and Sam Howell, who has one win in his career. But overall, it's three guys that, for the most part, should see the field most of the year.
Mhm.
I know Sam Howell's not exactly set in stone as a guy in Washington, but he's getting the chance to start. So as long as he does well and the team likes him and doesn't look back, then that's three starters right there. I'll dip into the guys that I'm not too fond of, and it might be obvious, but it kind of ties in with the quarterbacks. I think that Colt McCoy and Jameis Winston were wasted picks because it's not a best ball. So you are allowed to make
Right.
moves. And I think that
Mhm.
one or even both of those would have been available post draft. So he should have went with another skill position there. Not even necessarily tight end, but like just a wide receiver or another, doesn't need a running back, but maybe another running back there, instead of one of those two quarterbacks. Because instead of like really stacking any of his quarterbacks, instead of trying to grab a Michael Thomas or a Jawan Johnson for Derek Carr, or trying to grab
Mhm.
like a Ben Skoranek in place of Alec Pierce or Colt McCoy. He basically just handcuffed his quarterbacks, which you could only technically you can play two of them, but you're not going to play both quarterbacks from one team. So
Right.
I'm not. Those are probably my wasted picks or down picks that I would have went somewhere else there.
No, I think I completely agree with you there. Especially the Colt McCoy one. It's not like in the 18th round you're getting like an RB1 or two. But Colt McCoy, even if he starts the year, you're not starting him over any of the three quarterbacks that were picked before him. So definitely could see uh, that having been a different pick. Um, really quickly on maybe values that we like. We've kind of touched on this already, but I really like the pick of Jalen Warren, RB46 off the board. Um, he looked good. This kid has juice. And I think you said it well with the expected improvement in the Steelers' offense. More so than even really Kenny Pickett's improvement for me. I think what they've done with the offensive line, going first round tackle, and then also bringing in Darnell Washington, who is effectively an offensive tackle as well. Um, I see big things for the running game this upcoming season. Um, who is there? Are there any other nice values that you like on the board here?
Yeah, and I just want to maybe correct myself. I mean, the whole time, not the whole time, but I kind of thought Colt McCoy is backing up Sam Howell, but he's not. It doesn't take away from the fact. It doesn't take away from the fact that I think it's a bad pick. It still is a bad pick. There is a
Mhm.
better chance of him starting in Arizona than maybe in Washington, but I still don't like the pick. Should have went somewhere else. But speaking of Arizona, my sleeper pick is probably Trey McBride. Favorite pick, Trey McBride. I Yeah, Zach Ertz is probably going to be coming back at some point, if not at the beginning of the year. But if it is a Colt McCoy or the rookie starting, Trey McBride could get some heavy targets early, especially with DeAndre Hopkins not there anymore. He's a guy that I've been targeting in a lot of dynasty leagues, and I haven't done any redrafts yet, so not there, but maybe target him late in redrafts. But I've been trying to like look and see if he's on any of my waivers for cheap, stashing him in taxi if I can. But
Mhm.
I like Trey McBride. He showed in the games that he played last year. He showed that he's got the skill set in his in his draft year. He was the first tight end off the board in that year, and he had the talent coming out. So
Mhm.
another year in with the Arizona Cardinals, and I know it's a lot of moving parts there, and we don't know who's the starting quarterback, but another year with the Cardinals and some opening targets there with Hopkins going. I think McBride can make a little bit of noise and early on too.
No, I totally agree with you there. I think just to add two more pieces to your analysis, one is that it being kind of like a waste, almost a wasted year for the Cardinals. They're probably incentivized to be as bad as possible, but in another sense, they're more incentivized to see what they have from a young tight end like Trey McBride. And the second piece is that if you think about the receivers in that room, they're all smaller bodies. Hollywood Brown and Rondale Moore, even Greg Dortch, who kind of flashed, but all three of them are that smaller build kind of receiver that more speedier kind of weapon, Trey McBride really could be the guy that's called upon to, convert a crucial third down or, in the red zone. So I definitely like that pick there. But thank you so much for the submission. Equinox FF, really strong team. If you come back and end up with the top 3 RBs in the year, I think you'll be just fine. But hope you enjoyed that analysis. And now we move on to the last team of the night. This one was submitted by VH Sama. Thank you so much for your submission. They're playing in the Outback Steakhouse division, drafting from the 105. And here we have in the quarterbacks Lamar Jackson, Jordan Love, Ryan Tannehill. I already tell I'm going to like that one. And Trey Lance. Running backs are Nick Chubb, Josh Jacobs, Ramondre Stevenson, Rashad Penny, Kenny Gainwell, Jeff Wilson, and Malik Davis. At wide receiver, there's D Hop, Deontay Johnson, Jahan Dotson, Brandon Cooks, Zay Flowers, and Puka Nacua. Tight end, Dallas Goedert, Juwan Johnson, Luke Musgrave, Jake Ferguson. And at kicker, that's the Lions kicker, Riley Patterson. So what do you think about this team here, Jerry? What are your strengths and weaknesses?
Strengths, again, going to the running backs, Nick Chubb, Josh Jacobs, Ramondre Stevenson, 2 of the 3 running backs in Philly, Jeff Wilson and Malik Davis. That's an excellent group there. You got some upside. You got some guys that could get into the end zone, guys on strong offenses. Between Philly, Miami, Dallas, they should all be in the top 10, top 12 for total offense. And then between Nick Chubb, Josh Jacobs, and Ramondre Stevenson, those guys are just workhorses. So, Nick Chubb could honestly, actually, all 3 of them could end up leading the league in rush attempts, which you get the 0.25 per carry. That's extra points right there. So, my favorite group out of everything is probably going to be the running backs, and I assume that's yours, but like to hear about it.
No, I totally agree with that one. Josh Jacobs, maybe you're feeling a little bit shakier after the recent news, but all things considered, this is a workhorse back in the league. Just with the way that the NFL is, Jacobs should be playing this year, and he is in line for another 300 plus carry season. I really do like the running backs, but I do have to give a nod to the quarterback room. And getting ahead of myself, but I really love the value with Ryan Tannehill being drafted as the quarterback 31. It's possible that when this team is drafted, that he didn't even know he had the stack of Tannehill and D-Hop, but now you're probably feeling really happy about that one there. If Tannehill can, turn into him from 2 seasons ago, that's a low end QB1. To get that at QB 31 in a league like this is huge. Obviously, Lamar Jackson, you're very happy about it in a format with 0.25 per carry, could end up as the QB1. Maybe Jordan Love brings the room down a little bit, but I think I'd be more than happy with putting something like this together.
Yeah, Lamar Jackson was my QB1 in my draft. I took him at 200 or 106. I like that they gave Ryan Tannehill an elite wide receiver 1, and you touched on it too. Like we don't know if Ryan Tannehill knew that DeAndre Hopkins was going to be his wide receiver by the time this draft happened. I think they all started at the same time, and they're all finishing up at different times. Some even might still be going on. I know one in our group just finished the other day, so they're still taking forever to go on. But that's going into that's kind of scary, taking DeAndre Hopkins and either at the time being on the Cardinals and having question marks, or just not being on a team at all, and that was your wide receiver 1. And while the room overall for wide receivers isn't necessarily bad, it's another one of those rooms that it's got upside, but it's got a bunch of like wide receiver 2s and 3s, even though exactly. I think DeAndre Hopkins or Deontay Johnson could end up in the 1 range, especially with all the receptions that and targets that Deontay Johnson gets. But it's a decent room. It's just it, it's a little scary to go with an unknown at 605, but it looks like it might end up working out and having that little stack there.
Yeah, definitely. I definitely agree with you. It is similar where you're probably not expecting a wide receiver one to emerge from this group. Uh, that moves us on actually kind of nicely to the values. Again, kind of jumping around myself, but I touched on Ryan Tannehill. But another value I want to shout out is Jahan Dotson at wide receiver 38. Um, that's a player that I'm actively trying to target in seasonal leagues, dynasty too, but seasonal leagues especially. I think this kid is ultra talented. Um, there is a bit of a worry that a lot of his production last year came from touchdowns, but you watch this guy play and he can get open. I honestly wouldn't be surprised if the split between Terry McLaurin, very talented in his own right, but the split between him and Jahan Dotson is pretty much close to one this upcoming year. Who are some of your favorite picks on this team?
One of my favorites is Jeff Wilson, and it's a little scary because there has been a lot of rumors between either Dalvin Cook or other running backs coming in, and it sounds like they want to add another guy. Whether they do it or not, that remains to be seen. But if they don't, I think Jeff Wilson is going to be the lead back, and I don't want to say bell cow, and I don't want to say he's going to be RB1 or anything like that. But I think he has the opportunity to see most of the touches when they're running the ball. And now they're gonna manufacture plays for Devon A. Chain. They're probably gonna pass it more anyways because how can you not when you have Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle?
Right.
But on specific running plays where they're running with the running back, I think it's going to be Jeff Wilson. I think he gets a lot of goal line work too, punching 7, 8 touchdowns on the year, and hopefully gives you some fantasy relevant weeks.
Yeah, I think he's the only back right now on that team that's above 200 pounds. So I do think he's being really slept on. He's probably the last of the Miami Dolphins running backs. Really been drafted in most leagues, but he very well could be the one who ends up with the most of the work and most of the points. On the flip side, what are some picks that you're not as happy with?
Well, like I said, already mentioned DeAndre Hopkins as the first wide receiver for this team at a time that we didn't know what was going on. And then the very next round too, like Jordan Love. I'm not too fond of him. We've seen a little bit of him play, but to be the quarterback two for a fantasy team where we don't know if they're going to pull the trigger on Malik Willis or Will Levis, with Ryan Tannehill being the quarterback three. So it's kind of like going into the season where Lamar Jackson, who's only played 12 games he's played 12 games in each of the past 2 years, a quarterback that doesn't have a lot of playing experience, and a quarterback that has two backups drafted decently high the last 2 years right on his tail. It's a little it's not that great.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I think VH Sama, you should definitely check and see if Tyler Huntley is still available in your league, and maybe consider dropping one of those tight ends for him. I know Huntley wasn't the best when he did play last year,
He's a
but
Pro Bowler, all right.
that is true. Apologies, Mr. Huntley. But you might want to just get a little bit of extra backup. I definitely agree with you on the value of Jordan Love. It probably wouldn't have been my pick there. But I am very high. I think it's almost canceled out by the Tannehill value. We'll see which way it goes, but I think the D Hop move for me kind of signals that they're in it to win it this year. Would I have expected that with that team? Probably not. But I feel pretty good about Tannehill, and I think it balances out. It makes us a pretty strong team. Just last to touch on, because I don't believe we spoke about any of these players, but any thoughts on the tight end room on this team?
of the four teams we talked about, he's got the highest tight end drafted in round
Right.
5, Dallas Goddard. The extra point per reception for tight ends definitely helps. I mean, that's going to be a high flying offense. I don't hate to pick tight end 7. So guys like Kittle, Kelsey, Andrews all probably went before him. Hawkinson, Pitts. So not a bad tight end. Maybe could have went a wide receiver in that spot there. Maybe got Dallas Goddard 1 round later, and then you could have a better wide receiver 1. But I don't hate that pick. Jawan Johnson. I mean, it's weird with him because like you have 3 or 4 tight ends on the Saints that could end up being
Right.
the top tight end, and when you have that many tight ends that could be the top tight end, none of them are the top tight end. I've taken Jawan
Exactly.
Johnson a few times. I've taken him in best ball. I've taken him late in start of drafts and stuff like that, but it's it's really hard because they keep on bringing in tight ends. They keep on they brought in the guy from Vegas who what
Foster
was his name?
Moreau. Yeah.
Yeah, Foster Moreau. They brought Foster Moreau. They still have Taysom Hill on that team, and Jawan Johnson. I think Jawan Johnson might be the most athletic of them. But again, it's a crowded room. But if one of these guys emerges and ends up being a favorite of Derek Carr, it's definitely going to be. It could be really nice, especially with Chris Olave and Michael Thomas there, and Derek Carr liking to pass the ball.
No, I definitely agree with that. It's probably a tight end you were maybe a little more excited about earlier in the year, but now Jimmy Graham's also joined that room. So I think you said it well. If any of them could be the top tight end, then no one is the top tight end. But thank you so much for the submission here. Those were the 4 teams that we had today. Hope everyone enjoyed that. I totally took myself off the screen.
Yeah.
Thank you. I'm still getting used to the restream controls, but thank you everyone for watching. I hope you enjoyed that episode. To the 4 who submitted, I hope you enjoy the analysis that Jerry and I provided. We do have a few more Scott Fishbowl teams to go through. We'll be getting to those in the coming weeks. But Jerry, real quick before we go, tell the people where they can find you, what you've been working on, and yeah, how excited are you for the season?
Yes, season's right around the corner. Hall of Fame games next week. I believe it's who Browns and Jets. Is that correct?
Right. Hmm.
Yeah. Hard Knocks should be starting soon. The Jets are on Hard Knocks. That's always a show that I enjoy watching. So, yeah, I mean, anything football that we could get in. I just finished watching that quarterback show on Netflix. I'm just trying to get all the football in that I can, and
Right.
it's getting me there. We're almost in August, and that's when football starts up again. Camps are here now. For me, it's right around the corner, not too far from here. So, try to take the kids out there and go see a mini camp. But yeah, you could find me at Jerry Wilkie FM on Twitter. You can search for my name on Facebook and see me there. Obviously, I'm here on the fantasy assessment here, and then I also in season run the IDP show, Cover Zero IDP for Going for Two. So if you have any IDP questions or you want to tune in, take a listen. And because IDP is coming very popular. First the industry kind of transitioned over to super flex leagues, and then they transitioned to making more leagues tight end premium, and now IDP starting to come in. So within a couple of years, I think there's going to be a lot more people talking about IDP, and it's
Hmm.
becoming it's kind of becoming a standard in dynasty startups. So definitely trying to get in on the ground floor, and yeah, we talk a lot of IDP strategy. So that's Cover Zero IDP show.
Great. Yeah. Today was my first ever experience drafting IDP in our Riders League, so I'll definitely have to tune in for more advice. Although now that you know that, you might be tossing some curveballs my way. But anyway, I have been Rahul. You can find me on Twitter at nrahul11. The co-host here, the Fantasy Assessment. I've been on a few shows as well, going for 2. I'm also trying to get my own soccer podcast off the ground. The 1-2. So if you want to hear more about the beautiful game, football, come and check that out. It's got some good content. But that has been it from us. This has been the Fantasy Assessment. Thank you so much for tuning in, and we'll catch you in the next one.